You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. The trial, Karen Reed's retrial, now in recess there. So right now, you're happening live. You're watching it right now. That is Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. He is delivering remarks. He just got there to the podium. He's delivering remarks at the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, National Day of Remembrance. Let's listen in.
But it stands for freedom. It stands for justice. It stands for the enduring strength of the American people. It is the flags behind me, all those infantry divisions and all those armored divisions that ended the massacre of 6 million Jews. It is the core strength of America that freed us. And I think while we stand here today, I think we should remember with the flags behind me how vital and important America is and our armed forces are. Today we gather to mourn the loss of 6 million innocent people. We gather to remember the horrors that these people lived through. But we gather not just to remember what happened, but also to make sure, of course, that it shall never happen again. So this, as was just mentioned, this past January, I traveled with my friend Steve Witkoff, and we led the American delegation to Auschwitz. And we marked the 80th anniversary of the camp's liberation. There are no books, no photographs, no documentaries that can enter your soul the way physically being in Auschwitz pierces inside of you. Stand beside gas chambers that were designed to kill people. Stand behind ovens that were designed to kill people. And you see the fabric of these people's lives strewn in an exhibition to just remind you of how horrible the events were. Over 1.1 million people 1.1 million people were murdered there. Children, mothers, grandparents, teachers, human beings. And they were all targeted, as we all know, simply for being Jewish. And there you could feel the horror of it all. I met survivors there. I heard their stories. I saw the tattoos inked on their arms. They survived, and they reminded me of the scale of hate that can and must be overcome. The Holocaust was a failure of humanity. But as we all know, no matter how hard we try, that kind of hatred continues to exist, just in many, many other forms. It shows up in different ways, and it shows up at different times. On September 11th, our country was attacked by jihadists. These radical jihadists murdered thousands of innocent people. They killed my brother Gary. He was 36. They killed my best friend Doug. He was 39. And they killed 656 of my other friends and colleagues who worked at my company, Cantor Fitzgerald, because Cantor Fitzgerald was on the top 5 floors of the World Trade Center. I lost nearly everyone I worked with. It was enough, really, to break anyone. But we decided we would rebuild in order to care for the families of our colleagues who were killed that day. On October 7th, 2023, that evil, it surfaced again. In Israel, 1,200 Jewish men, women, and children were massacred. Women raped and mutilated. Entire families burned alive. 254 people taken hostage. Again, it was coordinated. Again, it was calculated. Again, it was carried out with the same genocidal hatred that fueled Auschwitz. And it's that same disregard for human life that fueled the September 11 attacks. It's just the same hate. It just comes at a different time with a different name. So we have to be clear, we have to be strong, and we have to be united. America is great because we believe in freedom, we believe in justice, and we believe in truth. And that is exactly what our enemies hate. And when those key ingredients of America are tested, we rise. That's why the flags are behind me, and that's why we stand here in our capital. We don't run from it. We address it head on. We remember it, so we will see it coming. And we must stop it before it spreads. So, I'm here to tell you in very, very clear and plain language. President Trump will never back down from defending Jewish people. Never. And President Trump stands shoulder to shoulder with the people and the state of Israel. Colleges and universities that enable anti-Semitism, they will lose our government's support. The Trump administration will not protect institutions that protect hate. This administration's promise is real. It matters, and it's not going anywhere. This country stands with the Jewish people, not just in words, but in the actions that we take. Our administration is clear. Hate and anti-Semitism have no place in America. We are all honored to be standing beside our incredible survivors who are with us today. Thank you for honoring us. We remember the Holocaust and its horrors together. And we stand together with the Trump administration. All of us stand against hate, and we stand against anti-Semitism. Thank you for honoring me today by having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, Abe Foxman, Holocaust survivor.
Liebe Plata. My dear fellow survivors, we are here again today. Bear witness. The killing of Europe's Jews ended 8 decades ago, but the memories never end. The legacies never end, and the lessons must never end. After surviving that unimaginable tragedy, the loss of everything we cherish, our families, friends, communities, the betrayal of our neighbors, we worked quickly to rebuild our lives. We were focused on the future, but the past was always with us, as it is today, and as it will always be. Over the years, it has been deeply gratifying to see Holocaust survivors build an international memory movement. It has been gratifying to see the creation of many Holocaust institutions across the country. And it was gratifying that our nation made an extraordinary commitment by creating a federal Holocaust museum near the National Mall, that adjacent to the museums that present the history of this great nation and celebrate human achievement, next to them there would stand a powerful counterpoint reminding the world of the dark side of human achievement. And an advanced, educated country with a democratic constitution like Germany would launch a world war, one of whose main goals would be to eradicate European Jewry. Now, here we are in a new century, approaching the eventual end of the eyewitness generation. And while I remain gratified by all that has been accomplished, I wonder if the lessons of the Holocaust have been learned, and I'm deeply worried about the future. I sense I may be speaking for many survivors. We look around us and what do we see? Rampant anti-Semitism on college campuses in the cities worldwide in the aftermath of that horrific terror attack on our cherished Jewish state Israel. We see social media algorithms that promote extreme views, conspiracy theories, and online conspiracy theories are just one click away from anti-Semitism. And anti-Semitism not so different from the conspiracy theories that permeated Europe for centuries, long before Hitler was born, and helped make the killings of 2/3 of our people possible. As we look around us, we also see forms of anti-Semitism that seemed unthinkable. Holocaust denial, distortion, trivialization, exploitation, and even glorification. We look around and see here in America anti-Semitism on both far left and far right. 20th century history of Nazism and communism should be an alarm bell as just to how dangerous this is. And not just for us Jews, but for all of society, for all who care about democracy, individual freedom, and dignity. I'm very worried, and I still have hope. Your presence here today gives me hope. Thousands of teenagers pouring through the U.S. Holocaust Memorial every year gives me hope. The teachers throughout America committed to Holocaust education give me hope. And the fact that I am here gives me hope, because I am here only because of one Polish woman who made a choice to save a Jewish child. Her name was Bronislava Kurpi. She was my nanny. Bronislava Kurpi, to whom I owe my life. There were others like her, but sadly, far too few. The Holocaust teaches us many lessons about the fragility of democracy, the dangers of anti-Semitism. But it also teaches us that choice is always possible, that silence is a choice, and choices always have consequences. Individuals have more power than they think. We survivors hope that more people will use that power to confront anti-Semitism and all forms of hatred. That is our hope and our challenge to all of you on this very special day, and on every day. May we all choose wisely. We live in very chaotic times where our values, our history, our democracy are being tested. As a survivor, I'm horrified at the explosion of anti-Semitism, global and in the U.S. And I'm appreciative of President Biden's historic initiative on anti-Semitism and thankful to President Trump's strong condemnation of anti-Semitism and his promise to bring back consequences to anti-Semitic behavior. But as a survivor, my antenna quiver. My antenna quiver when I see books being banned, when I see people being abducted in the streets, when I see government trying to dictate what universities should teach and whom they should teach. As a survivor who came to this country as an immigrant, I'm troubled when I hear immigrants and immigration being demonized. As some of you know, I was born in the wrong time, in the wrong place, for a Jewish child. Nazi-occupied Poland in 1940 was not the best place to be born. And yet I managed to survive by the intercession of one special person's kindness, courage, compassion, decency, and most likely several miracles to survive. As I grew older, I tried to understand what it meant that I had survived. And the first set of questions were very serious existential questions of why. Why did the Shoah, the Holocaust, happen to the Jewish people? Why did over 1.5 million Jewish children perish? Why was the world silent, and why didn't the Almighty intervene? To these universal questions of why were added very personal questions. Why me? Why me, not the other little boys and girls, to Shleimelach, to Hanalach, to Saralach, to Moishelach? Why not them? Why me? In that struggle to understand, two facts became very clear. One is that the world knew. The world knew. There was no CNN, there was no Fox, there were no satellite feeds. There was no internet, no 24/7 news, yet the world knew. Those in positions of power to make decisions to stop what was happening knew. They knew every day how many Jews were being killed in Lodz, in Baranovich, in Minsk, in Bialystok. They knew. And for years previously, they knew what was happening. Ken Burns, in his PBS series, American the Holocaust, told the world how much America knew and how little it did. So the first lesson for us is to know about anti-Semitism, about bigotry, to know about hatred, to know who it is that threatens our democracy and our freedom. It's extremely important that we know, but knowing is not enough. The second thing that became clear is that whenever, however, good people said no, wherever good people stood up and said no to hate, Jews lived, gays lived, Roma lived. There was an Oskar Schindler who saved 1,200 Jews. There was a Raoul Wallenberg, you heard, a Swedish diplomat who saved 50,000, maybe 100,000 Jews. There were 60 diplomats who acted against their country's wishes and saved thousands of Jews. There was Denmark, Bulgaria, Albania. Ironically, it was in the Balkans that a magnificent chapter of humanity was written, not in the capital cities that provide us with philosophy, with music and art, but in the Balkans. Bulgaria saved all its Jews, not Macedonian Jews, because from the king to the patriarch, to the president, to the parliamentarians, they all said no. And as I said, I stand here today because there was a lady who could barely read and write, who did not sit down and weigh the measure and the risk, yet risked her life every single day for 4 years to protect the life of another human being, a Jewish child. So I stopped asking the questions of why and began to ask the questions on the order of what if. What if instead one Raul there had been 10,000? What if instead one Auschwitz there had been 10,000? What if this wonderful country of ours had permitted a passenger ship to St. Louis to dock at these shores and unload its cargo of refugees? What if we had bombed Auschwitz? What if our neighbors to the North Canada had found room for 5,000 Jewish orphans? What if we had traded trucks for Jews? What if Switzerland would have permitted the entry of Jewish orphans? The Dominican Republic said yes. Cuba said yes. America and Canada said no. And there was no Israel. There was no Israel to open its doors. So for me, remembering and bearing witness is to make sure that our children and grandchildren will never have to ask, what if in the future? What if their parents, grandparents stood up every single day to say no? No to anti-Semitism, no to hatred, no to bigotry, no to prejudice, and no to racism. Bearing witness also gives me an opportunity to say thank you to my nanny, Bronislava Krupi, whom I never had the opportunity to thank. Finally, the Holocaust did not begin with gas chambers. It began with words, hateful, ugly words that demonized, degraded, and diminished Jews, and those words became ugly, hateful deeds. In the Jewish tradition, we believe that life and death is in the power of the tongue. 3 times a day, Jews who follow the tradition ask the Almighty to keep my mouth from speaking evil. Nitzor l'shonim mira. On Yom Kippur, on the highest day of atonement, we ask for atonement for the sins with the utterance of our lips that we committed by groundless hatred. We believe in the power of words, in the power of good people to stand up and say no. Never again was the 11th commandment etched in the aftermath of Auschwitz. It was etched by the Jewish people based on the Jewish experience, but never again that pledge, that imperative, that commandment as a universal message. For all of us today must bear witness and be faithful to that commandment, which instructs us all to never again be silent when anyone is in fear, danger, isolated, singled out because the color of their skin, their religion, their ethnic origin, their sexual orientation, or anything that makes them different from the rest. Shockingly, the survivors of today bearing witness to the global epidemic of anti-Semitism. Israel, the Jewish state, is again under attack. Israel has become the Jew amongst the nations, the only country that has to defend its right to defend itself. Zionism, the national liberation movement of the Jewish people, is again under attack and has become a dirty word. So it is, again, our responsibility, survivors, to bear witness. And we dare not be silent. Am Yisrael Chai.
These United States Army officers are participants in a museum leadership program that has included over 800 U.S. military service members. Through examination of the Holocaust, they gain insight into their own professional and individual responsibilities.
I'm Major Rufus Allen. I remember.
I am Major Keaton Troy. I remember. Major Zachary Trevathan. I remember.
I am Major Danielle Haynes. I remember.
I am Major Alexander Manavi, and I remember.
I am Major Emily Merrick. I remember. I am Captain Rebecca Melendez. I remember.
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Right there, you're watching a Holocaust Memorial Museum Day of Remembrance ceremony. That's my time, folks. Charlotte Today is coming up next. We'll be back here at 12:30.